All right, so how is all of this going to land politically in this country? Let's bring in the front bench to talk about just that. Former senior advisor to the Liberal Ontario governments of Dalton McGuinty and Kathleen Wynne, Dan Moulton is here in studio with me. He's now a partner with Crestview Strategy. Shakir Chambers worked in Prime Minister Stephen Harper's office before becoming a policy advisor to the International Trade Minister. And Laura Stone is a Queen's Park reporter for the Globe and Mail. Hi, guys. Welcome back, Shakir. We missed you through the month of September. I'm going to start, Dan, with you. The minister is more optimistic. Is that enough politically?
Look, I think we saw coming out of this a sense of optimism towards some substantive reporting on progress out of the States, right? There was certainly a good energy coming out of this. There was a great energy in the room today. There was a clear mutual respect between the two leaders. There was a clear collegiality. I think politically, this is the place you want the Prime Minister, right? This is the place he was elected to be. This is the stage he should be on. It's far better than to see him there with Donald Trump, sitting together side by side, working towards some sense of relief for Canada's economy, given the turbulence we've gone through, than to have him in pretty much any other environment, right? So I think politically this is a good day for the government. I think they're probably quite pleased with the outcome. Let's be real, like, they've sent him into the center of the three-ring circus and asked him to do high-wire acrobatics. And I think if anyone was watching today, they're going to think he did a pretty impressive feat and came out looking, I think, stronger than he did going in. I think all of that is totally valid, Shakir, and very fair point,
particularly when you analyze the Prime Minister, let's say in other environments on other issues. Like this one, like, it could have gone way worse in the moment, and I think that's just like a fact. At the same time, I think something else could be true, that was a huge win 6 months ago in the first visit, and you can see how, given the shifting political dynamics and more pressure from, I think, maybe both some Canadians as well as the opposition, that might not be the exact same conclusion this time around.
Yeah, I mean, we should have higher expectations for the Prime Minister. Just setting the bar as, if you go in there and Donald Trump doesn't rip you a new one, it's a success. That's not good enough anymore. I think Prime Minister Carney needs to show some level of progress. I mean, Dan said it. This was a central issue that he was elected on, to handle these negotiations, to deal with Donald Trump. It's great that they had good rapport. I'll give him credit where credit is due. Seeing him in the Oval Office, that was great to see. They get along very well. But people want to know what's going on and how are we going to get to a situation where either we have a comprehensive agreement or we have lower tariffs. Just continually saying we are making progress. We've had some Senate discussions. I'm not sure that's going to be good enough for Canadians moving forward. I think people want to know, is there a framework to get tariffs removed? Is going to be a quota system? Can we at least get Donald Trump to get to the position where he respects our sovereignty and doesn't talk about being the 51st state? We need to see a bit more progress on these things. And I think right now, I know these things take time. I know negotiations can drag out for a while, but folks just want to know that there's some progress happening and not just continually talking about substantive discussions and, things are going well. We need to see more than that.
It was interesting to watch the minister today, Laura, navigate those questions, right? And I think back to when it was Chrystia Freeland, for example. And I remember talking to some of the people in the office then who said, like, the American side is very upset if you disclose anything publicly. Like, Bob Lighthizer would call Chrystia Freeland and ream her out for saying things publicly. But ultimately, they decided they needed to let out enough to keep the Canadian public on side. You could hear from the minister tonight that they have agreed, he said, with the Americans, basically not to say anything. And the result of that, while I understand the impetus for it, is that, like, we feel kind of in the dark.
Mm-hmm. I think there is a bit of a chill that's set in terms of communications with the public, and you've noticed it since the Prime Minister Carney came in. Dominic LeBlanc used to be a lot chattier, I would say, in public about the state of things, to put it lightly. Now he's quite reserved by Dominic LeBlanc standards. He still has a little twinkle in his eye, but he's not showing his cards in the way that he used to. I think, look, I mean, that could be a sign that they are very close to something, but that could also be a sign that they're somewhat terrified of messing this up, right? And there's a fear here now that this has dragged on. I think there's certainly a fatigue on the part of the Canadian public for the Trump show and kind of the manic push and pull. And is he upset with Canada? Now he seems to like Carney again. Where are we getting with this? It does seem, from what we saw in the Oval Office, that things went well. It does sound like discussions are moving forward. I think if there hadn't been any progress made today, I don't think we would have seen Dominic LeBlanc at all. So I think that does send a signal that something was decided at that table to expedite discussions. Whether that's good enough for the industries that are being hammered by these tariffs, I'm sure it isn't, and the uncertainty is still there. But I do think, broadly speaking, the Canadian public does still give the Prime Minister the benefit of the doubt, especially when you watch, the 30-minute show unfolding before you, and you see kind of how Trump handles all these different issues, and he's kind of ranting and raving. I think most people look at that and say, Carney handled himself pretty well in that circumstance.
Yeah, and I think the one thing I would add to that is if there had been something really big and substantial to announce, it would have been the Prime Minister tonight talking.
Well, I think it will be when the time comes, right?
But when is the time?
Yeah,
that is the question.
Look, I think there's a lot of there is ongoing anxiety. We felt it for the better part of the last 12 months. Canadians are eager to see a deal. As the Prime Minister keeps pointing out, Canada has one of the best deals of any country that trades with America. We're one of their most significant trading partners. And they're not going to settle for a bad deal. They're not going to come home with a deal that doesn't preserve the best interests for this country.
But they set their own deadlines, to be fair. I get that.
But they're still at the table working right now, right? I think that's the important thing that we saw.
We have one by X or Y,
Yeah, look, I think the best message I heard from the Prime Minister today was pointing out the trillions that Canada invests in the American economy. Our institutional investors are among the most powerful in the world, the most successful in the world, and some of our pension funds are investing and planning to invest more significantly. The Prime Minister was pointing out that investment over the coming years today, and I think that was the message that gave me the most confidence that they're tracking towards something that will demonstrate the kind of progress that everyone's eager to see. I know there's a strong appetite for it, and I know people are hungry to see it. I would say politically, there was also a need to see the kind of progress that we did see today. We are seeing our leaders together in the Oval Office having this conversation. We are hearing that there are continuing discussions overnight. That is the kind of confidence I think a lot of people are looking for right now. And frankly, I think the Prime Minister's office made the right strategic decision saying it's time to get him back in that room and demonstrating progress that people are hungry to see.